Okay.
Cheat code.
Oh, cheat code. I thought you said Tico de we. I was like,
Oh,
what?
sorry.
I'm old. I need hearing aids. So
I thought you said like tit code weekly or
Yeah.
something. Like what?
it's in your future. Trust me.
Oh,
Hearing
oh,
goes, eyesight
yeah,
goes.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I might be talking fast and slurring, so it's but welcome in everybody to another episode of Cheat Code Weekly. And today we actually have a guest with us, and that's because Atari collecting is a bit of a hot topic these days. I know myself and Henry, we kind of dunk on it here and there. It is less popular to collect for Atari. All pre-Nintendo actually is it's less popular than it has been over the past 10 to 15 years, I'd say. I'm 31. Henry himself is getting up to 40 there. I played the console a tad growing up, but I don't have any actual nostalgia for Atari. Do you, Henry?
No, my first console was NES with the Duck Hunt and the Zapper. I never even played Atari, and I honestly only learned about it until I was on Digipress. So it was never on my radar.
Yeah, you got exposed to it through collecting, essentially.
Collecting, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
So my uncle had one, back when I was like 6. So we played it a few times at his house, and that was it. But we were never running back to it. It's an Atari at the end of the day. NES was out, so we were playing better video games. But with us today to talk about this and perhaps debate us on why Atari actually is fun to collect, why Atari you actually should care about Atari, we have Matt Rose. He's someone who does collect for Atari, cares about it deeply, been collecting since 2004, so around 20 years now experience. Atari isn't the only thing he does. You can see he has a whole wall there behind him of video games collected for most consoles over the years. So we brought in someone who we think has enough breadth of knowledge to really give us why Atari matters. So welcome on, Matt. You can say a few things there, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, I'm really confused because I came on here ready to talk about VHS. I mean, I thought this was the I mean, I got some awesome VHS going on here. I mean, I got some old school GI Joe. I've even got Pokemon. I mean, that should be,
Is that a factory sealed?
Yeah, that's factory sealed.
That might be one VHS that still has value.
Probably. I figured it was smart to buy. So yeah, and I wore, a VHS shirt and
It's I don't even associate War Games as a movie. I own a War Game still for Atari. Speaking about like the little bit of Atari I still own, I have War Games on Coleco or Atari, whatever it came out for.
That's
Never saw the
fair.
movie.
That's fair. You got me there. I thought I was going to throw on the VHS shirt and throw everybody, but now, oh, all right.
Oh,
The joke's,
yeah,
the joke's up. Fine.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice.
There it is.
it half worked. I'll say this,
Perhaps.
one of the few episodes that Josh and I ever did that got the most downvotes was when we talked about VHS.
Oh man.
It's insane.
And it was just briefly too. No, it got the most downvotes. It was bad.
So you've been collecting a long time now. I wasn't even aware that you were so deep in Atari collecting because I mean, we could have had you on for an episode about Halo specifically. We could you could talk about a lot of different things. So I'm just curious, what got you drawn into the Atari rabbit hole? What was it about Atari specifically?
I mean, my first memory of video games altogether is Atari. My sister and I, my parents were lucky enough, we grew up, I was born in 78. And when I was old enough to actually conceive and remember things, we had an Atari. And I can remember Pac-Man and Asteroids. Those were the two games we had. Pac-Man kind of sucked. But we played Combat and we played Asteroids a lot. And that's my first experience with video games. So to me, even going up to my godparents' house, it was so much fun because they had other Atari games, like they had a whole lot. And so I can remember like they were the greatest influence on me, really. They let me play like their Apple II and stuff like that. But I remember playing like Decathlon, and you just sit there and, back and forth with the controller is so much, it locks in memories of good times for me as a kid. So
it is
yeah.
very nostalgia driven for you because that's what I
Oh,
said right
big
off the
time.
rip here. I'm 30. He doesn't have nostalgia either. Like I was literally
Yeah.
just way too young for the Atari wave.
Yeah. It's not like you missed a lot. They're not fantastic, but you sometimes
I've tried playing a lot of games as a collector, right? Because that's where I got exposed. So I have like a Coleco Gemini, pre-Nintendo. I think I have a Vader console. I have like 3 Ataris still. I think I have a Junior complete in box. So, I tried to go down the, like, can I care about Atari? I gave it a fair shot, man.
Yeah, it's, you just have to go back to the roots and just see where everything, because everything evolves from something. And it's just kind of fun to go back and see where it all kind of started. I'm not saying it exactly started there, but that's where video game consoles really took off, for me anyway. So,
So,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Henry. Sorry.
yeah, sorry. So, actually, for Atari, I know it's really hard to tell what a first print is because there's just not a lot of information out there. Like, generally speaking, let's say for a Pac-Man, how do you
yeah.
tell what a first print is on a game
Oh,
like
you want
that?
me to
It's
give
just,
all that? You want me to give all that away, huh?
oh, I mean, can you just give it for Pac-Man? You don't have to give it out for everything, I guess. Like
Yeah.
general rules where
There's
you
like
follow.
seven
For
of you
example,
guys who
like,
collect Atari. You're gonna gatekeep the info. Come on, this is your chance.
It's
yeah, do
all
you want more people?
all credit goes to Josh Byerly. I'll say that right now. He is the information king, and any information I've really gotten, has come from him or even other Atari collectors. But honestly, actually, I have a website too for people that want to know Atari collecting. It's what we use. I know Eric Hewitt has also gotten really big in the Atari, which I think is awesome because he's, a modern day game kid, but he likes to go back to roots as well. But there is a website I pulled up. If you ever want to know, so it's not really hidden information, you just have to know where to look. If you ever want to know what any first print of just about any box, he pretty much has everything. He's been working on this thing for years and years and years. You go to, yeah, it's videogamevariations.com. It's very old, it's clunky. The SSL on the website just went down, so you have to say, hey, I trust this website, when you're clicking into it, things like that. But he lists out all the boxes, he has images, you can go in there. So if you're looking like for like an asteroids first print, I can show you a Pac-Man first print here in a second. But
Yeah.
so he shows you like asteroids boxes. Like, actually, that's a good example. Like, he'll have this and he'll show the back and he'll show the different variants. Let me pull it out of this so it's not, he'll show the different, what's first print, what's second print, what changed, things like that. And I'm not saying he's not missing prints because we're always learning as we go, but like this would be a first print asteroids, and not many people would even know that. You look at the back, it's going to have the warranty box information, and then it'll have the actual date code down here. Second print doesn't have this section down here. It's just this warranty box, and then the variants go out from there. There's so many variants.
And
Yeah,
is that usually like a set in stone type of thing for each Atari game, or is it's sort of like NES?
It's
You got the oval and the round. Is that sort of
yeah.
set
Are
in
there
stone or
general
not really?
rules that someone can easily?
it's a good rule of thumb to go by, like if you're just kind of shooting from the hip and you don't have time to look, that on first print, like early Atari games, that would be kind of the general rule. You look for the warranty box, you look for the code down below. But it's not on every case. There's a lot of, like Pac-Man in particular, which would be the most important. Let me see if I've got, look at that. I didn't even mean to have this here right now, but I'm just dumb lucky. So Pac-Man, it's so funny because I've seen so many people not know, and I guess it's good that they know. When you're looking at Pac-Man, you definitely, this is the first print Pac-Man. These are, if you can get these in any grade of like 7.0 or above, you're doing really well. I know that there's a 9, not maybe touch higher sitting out there, and I think I know who has it. This did not come with cellophane. And it is, if you notice on the front, it's the 2D version, and then it's not going to have the video game, whatever right here.
How much more difficult is it to find these first prints then? Like, is this kind of the chase for all you Atari guys right now? Is this you
It's
know
no, it's not so much like, I think these first print Pac-Mans are available. I've run into a lot, I've bought a lot. It's more the fight for condition.
Are you talking sealed specifically or like
Yeah.
CIB as well?
I'm talking sealed. I CIB, I get into CIB Atari when we start talking about Sears Telegames releases, which to me is the black box of Atari. They look the coolest. There's less prints of them. The run is like 50, what is it, 58, 59 games on Sears Telegames. Those look like, I mean, I guess we'll get right into it.
Yeah, we're deep now.
This is a Sears telegame. I call this the black box of Atari video games.
Yeah, I can see
There's
that.
58, 59 of these. If we could start putting in variations, and there's more, but these are what I like to collect. These are what Josh used to like to collect, and this is what Eric and I kind of collect these together, and they are crazy, crazy, ridiculous hard, because they don't exist, and I'm talking sealed.
Okay.
So on these, I'll collect CIB because I'm going to try and fill in the whole set. So I'm going to kind of have to get CIB, but even then, they're hard to find. Like they're dumb hard, which makes it fun, and they're still kind of affordable. They're not like, you're not going to get into the 5-6 figures necessarily yet for them. So they're
But you are getting into the 3-4 figures then, like kind of expensive.
There's a few. I mean,
that might be more expensive than a lot of people think these are, I guess, when you start showing off, these Sears telegames, which I would say are less popular, less known, at least overall, to a general collector if you walk into a game store, say.
Yeah. Run that question by me again. I caught the tail end, but not the front.
Just that, like, those actually are quite expensive in a general sense if you're starting to get into 3-4 figure on this stuff, and they're less popular stuff. I think would surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, it's going to go up because you're going to run into people. I won't call them out, but there's some other people that collect these as well. And, they're not hard off in life. So you're really going to be bidding back and forth with them if they don't have it. If they have it, typically I'll like reach out to that person and I'll say, hey, I need this one. I'm happy to, do whatever you want. I'll give you the next one, something like that. Or if I run into what you need, it's all yours. That's how collecting used to be back in the day is, you're kind of friendly with other people and you work with them. So you're not just jacking the price to infinity when it really shouldn't be. But these can still be spendy, even raw, it almost doesn't even matter what it is. If one of us doesn't have one, I mean, you're going to, easily be in the hundreds. I won't normally touch into the thousands unless it's something, Pac-Man's going to send you more, period. This is going to be more in the thousands. But I like to stick in the hundreds on them just because. But
no, it makes sense. Makes sense. Sorry, just one last thing about first prints here. You talked about sealed specifically there. So what's the chase like for CIB first prints on Atari? Is that still difficult?
It's still hard. I'm not saying you can't, but even if you run into one, it's like sometimes they're just literally trashed. I mean, you got to think these games have been around, I'm 40, some of them, 40 plus years. So they are trashed. So it's like, even if you're collecting CIB, it's like, am I going to take the super trashed copy? If it's rare enough, sure. If I think any Atari collector already knows, but if you want to talk about rare, you talk about like Sears Telegames, Superman. That's got to be one of the hardest, period. I mean, I think I know a couple sealed, period. And even CIB, then you are going to probably bump into the 4-figure for just a CIB.
So
it's
would
crazy.
you say? So would you say in general, it sounds like it gets competitive for obviously the rare ones, but
Yeah,
in general, would you say it's competitive overall to collect for Atari, or you just sort of know, like most of the people who are collecting sealed already?
it's a handful of people.
Okay.
And it's not to say that there's not more, but it's a handful of people who are aggressive about it,
Gotcha.
or at least actively going after them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's looking back on other things that I collected, like Halo and stuff. That's kind of how that started as well. Like there was 4 of us in a group back in 2012, and we were the ones collecting for it. So we were kind of fighting between ourselves, and we knew
Gotcha.
almost everything that sold. That's kind of how this feels for me for Atari, for Sears Telegames, sealed anyway.
Yeah.
Is that the general sense? How do you see, like say just Atari, I want to buy CIBs or maybe dabble in sealed. Is it a super, like, NES collecting, I'd say competition has come down over the years on that actually. Where is Atari at this point?
I don't think there's a lot of people necessarily aggressively collecting for it. Maybe after this podcast, I'm going to be screwed and I'll never find another one again. That's kind
Don't
of the,
inflate your own market. Atari's going to look too cool.
yeah, it's like, thanks guys. But there's not a lot, at least right now. I think long term though, to me, it's kind of like looking back and like I said, there weren't a lot of Halo collectors either, but now it's like, it's a whole nother world. Like everybody's grabbing them, and it's early video game. Like that's where it all started. I'm actually surprised there's not more, but I know there's a lot of old school Atari collectors who also already have everything they want. So it might have been more active in the past, to be honest.
Yeah, I
That,
mean,
that's some,
I view Atari as more of like a historical
Yeah.
piece. Like it's like a view back to what gaming used to be before Nintendo came and saved the day. But this is where games really became popular for the home console. And
Yeah.
generally speaking, it seems like most of the grades are a little bit like 7.0, 8.0 and below.
Yep.
It just seems like they're not kept in great condition, or it's just the boxes themselves are not sturdy enough over time, right?
Well, you got to keep in mind, so many Atari games didn't have cellophane on it. So look at it
Yeah.
more of like early black box Nintendo.
Mhm.
Those grades are notoriously also lower because you
Yeah.
didn't have any protection on the front. So every, slight scratch is in that cardboard and they're black. So it's like it really shows.
it strikes me
Um,
more almost like comics in that respect of like you have just more organic damage to the
yeah.
entire package.
Yeah, exactly. And just that little cellophane really protects a lot and makes it look so much nicer. But early Atari just didn't have it. They did get it a little bit later. But yeah.
So, a different direction here. Something like 20 years ago, we were talking about games, say Red Sea Crossing, Air Raid, Pepsi Invaders, the birthday cartridge, Chase the Chuck Wagon. I'm sure you're familiar with all these games I'm saying here.
Yep.
Um, are those rare games still like the absolute chase for the people who are still in the Atari world or the Atari people that you know about? Or has Atari collecting seen a shift similar to what we've seen in sealed and graded video games, say, where the Dino Peaks of the world are no longer the most popular stuff? Where has Atari attention kind of shifted to?
I'll say this caveat. I would say there are so many more Atari collectors that could speak better to this than me, like thousands of Atari collectors, because I'm kind of very specific on my Atari collecting, and that's kind of sealed and like especially Sears Telegames. That said, what I have noticed is that I don't ever see those prices on those necessarily go down. And I actually know collectors that don't even collect Atari buying privately that I know about specific titles that you've mentioned because they're cool and they have that story. When they have that story, they're appealing to video game collectors in general, plus their history, and people like that. Like I love it too. Did you mention the Pepsi? The
Mhm.
Pepsi as well. Um,
Yeah,
Air
do
Raid.
you do you have some yourself?
I do not. I haven't dabbled in those specific titles because I've learned from collecting that I need focus because I've had no focus and I literally have rooms full of crap and closets full of crap, and that's not gonna bid well. Girlfriend bugs me all the time about that. Future, it can get out of hand. So you really have to have focus, no matter what you collect, and I'm pretty focused on what I have, and it's uh it's really Sears Telegames. That's where my focus is. But that's not to say that if I didn't run across something and the deal makes sense, I may work to get it because that is something I would love to have an air raid.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Well, what are there?
yeah,
3 or 4 known copies at this point? Two?
yeah, complete CIB. I think Josh actually made a mention of that.
I was
I
just
can't.
talking cartridges, even.
I think there's a few more than that, but I think actual, complete, it's like two or three. Maybe I'm misspeaking, but I'm pretty sure that's what Josh had mentioned before. So
Given
that's
how extremely rare, like Atari rarity, even as a cartridge only, just it makes NES rarity look common, frankly. everything is like NWC gray or gold level when we start talking about the super rare Atari cartridges. And that's kind of
fair.
where I was always most interested
Yeah,
about myself getting in, like the water worlds of the world were the coolest thing in the world because it's like, oh my God, this shouldn't even exist. Um,
that's fair.
with the sealed collecting shift now, I do find myself being drawn more to a Superman or a Pac-Man or an Asteroids and Missile Command,
Yeah.
even though they aren't necessarily rare. Do you see a future where people, like, if people are going to come into Atari, which direction do you think new people are going to go to? What narrative is stronger at this point?
To me, most collectors that I kind of watch, and they always go for what they played with early on.
Oh, still
Um,
nostalgia based, kind of.
yeah, and that's why that's where I get started with collecting is I always buy, like if I jump into a new whatever, when I jumped into Nintendo back in the day and I started collecting sealed Nintendo, I wasn't necessarily buying like Zelda because I didn't have it growing up. I was buying the Bionic Commandos, I was buying the Ninja Gaidens, I was buying, Super Sprint because those were my favorite games that I grew up with. So that's to me, when I see collectors who really want to collect, they always start with their favorites. So whatever they started with, but to me, I would be like early, just regular, just regular Atari, regular early prints. That would be where I would go. Sears Telegame is kind of like a side tangent.
Yeah, that feels
Maybe,
like a deeper level where you
yeah,
first have to start Atari, learn about Atari, and then pick your niche with Atari kind of thing.
yeah. You're gonna start with an Asteroids, Pac-Man, you know, things of that nature.
Yeah, akin to where we see, NES collecting now with your Marios, your Zeldas, your super popular
Yeah,
titles. Makes
yeah.
sense.
Mario's a little tough, but yeah,
Well, I still need one
or
myself.
ex-
Like I'm,
ex-
I'm aware.
yeah, or expensive, I should say, not
Yeah,
necessarily tough,
expensive.
but
I know, right? I wish we go back to the days where an oval was like $300. I kick myself every day for not purchasing one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Speaking about
Yeah.
speaking about Mario, I think a lot of people don't know that there actually is a Mario game on Atari. So like where do you see that going? It actually gets pretty pricey on
Yeah, the
Heritage
first print
Auctions.
of that is very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see that one going, Matt?
Yeah, does that sell
Um,
for too much to you, or should that be a grail?
the Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of setting it up because I have one sitting on eBay that I literally, yeah,
Pump it.
it's it's I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate throwing that out. Yeah, yeah, that crosses. It's interesting when things in collecting cross other collectibles. Even though it's the same niche, Mario hitting two, you're hitting Atari, you're hitting Nintendo. Uh, it's interesting because it becomes more popular, and the price just it goes up. But yeah, that's a tough one as well. Uh, yeah, I'm not gonna pump my listing, but
I was gonna say, should we be buying it or not? What's your take? Is that good
right now
purchase, bad purchase?
yeah, I mean, I wish I could see the future, but it feels like Mario Brothers are selling pretty high. Um, but that's what people want. So I guess, it is what it is. I'm not saying it couldn't come down. Like I still think Pac-Man's underperform, honestly, and Froggers. I mean, those are monster games. Pitfall actually does pretty solid all the time.
Adventure does really, really well too, actually. Just speaking of like
Oh,
Atari stuff
big
specific.
time. Yeah, Adventure was one of those games where, a lot in a lot of people's top fives, top threes, Adventure is there for them. And those sealed are crazy hard to get as well.
Uh,
Um,
Or he's gonna show us something
yeah,
good.
we're gonna show something here.
Yeah, it's gonna show the adventure and the Mario Bros.
Yeah,
Nice.
here's this, here's that. Like,
Yo,
uh,
Matt, I'll pump it up for you. I think if
Adventure's
there's
in the
any
safe.
Atari game, if there's any Atari game I would want, it would be the Mario Brothers because, like you said, it does have like that
would
that
you target it
cross.
over a Pac-Man? Like, because Pac-Man, I think, is the Atari like IP kind of
It,
thing.
it it is the Atari game, but like overall IP is just gonna be Mario. So
Yeah, yeah, Mario's hard to beat. I mean, that's tough.
Feels so
That's
yeah,
boring. to just like,
I
I
am
collect
boring,
Atari,
bro.
the best game is just Mario.
Yo, bro, I'm like Sean from Reserved Investments. Always buy S&P, always buy Mario. It's just that
It,
simple.
it, it's like always buying Pokemon. It works. Like
Yeah,
as
Yeah,
stupid and
exactly.
boring as it is.
If you wanted to be a collector simply for just values and holding them forever, you do Mario, you do Zelda, you do Pokemon. If you stay in those three realms, dude, the easiest things in the world ever to sell for the most part over 20 years would be those.
That's why
Like,
I said right off the top there, you showed that Pokemon VHS. It's like, oh, that's probably still quite an expensive VHS, unironically.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so if you're collecting for just straight value and long-term like investment purpose, that's what you do.
I take it you're not in Atari for that.
No, I mean it's always to say you never sell or you're not thinking profit on some level. That's
Yeah, how do
crazy
you
talk.
balance it? Because Atari is less popular. So, with Nintendo stuff, I'd say it's a bit easier for myself, probably Henry. We buy a bit, we sell a bit, we grade a bit, and you kind of
Yeah,
keep it always turning. Do
yeah.
you find it's a little bit harder, slower? How do you, yeah, like think about Atari purchases with how much money is going out versus how much you might be able to bring back?
Um, I just know my budget and my range. I know if things are just crazy rare, I'll push a budget if I just know it's not going to come back up and the price is fair. I have no problems paying full price for something when it's meaningful to me, it fits my collection, and I know it's just crazy rare. I'll just pay it. I'll pay up for good stuff because I've never regretted paying up for good things in the past because good things that people want, they always want. So moving it in the future, like any like super rare Halo thing that I've ever purchased ever, um, and I've paid up like full price or even more than what it's ever sold for, I've always, done well with it. Not to say really sell Halo stuff, but the value overall based on what other people, are selling theirs for has always held. So yeah, I'm an advocate of paying up for quality good stuff. But you got to do your research first and know what you're looking at and understand that it's quality and know its values and things like that.
It's
So
something I'm actually personally working on more is like paying what it costs to get the stuff I actually want or actually good stuff because I
yeah.
mean maybe you can speak to this too. When you start collecting everything and you go down so many different rabbit holes, you start almost value seeking more than you want to just like you have your targets and stuff, but it's like, oh, I always buy what's a good value. What comes up that's good value versus the stuff you literally actually want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I value too. So if I've got something, but it's an upgrade and the price is right, I'll do it. And then I'll just turn my old copy and sell that and try and cover that if I can. Or if it's just a no-brainer price.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
mean,
there's always things that are so easy. It's just when you start paying, 20% less on a bunch of stuff and suddenly you can't buy anything you actually want sort of thing.
yeah. Yeah, you just got you gotta know where you're going. You have to have boundaries. You have to know what those are and you have to follow them. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes I've deals popped up even recently and I'm like, damn it, it's a good price, it's a good time, but I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So unless it's an absolute grail for me, that's a no, I can't say no, then sometimes you just have to pass. You have to learn to say no. And
That
sometimes
discipline, that's what I'm working on.
yeah, it can be hard, and I had to go through that too. Yeah,
Yeah, you got
I've
like
got
20 years experience on me. You've been saying no for almost 20 years longer than I have. Or not
yeah,
20, it's 15. I'm
I
making you 60 years old over there.
I do justify a lot of things a lot of times, but I've actually been getting even better in the most recent years of saying no and just focusing and just having a set of rules, knowing those rules, even if you write them down in your phone, is like, okay, does this purchase meet this, this, and this? You know, is this what I want? Or even if you're buying to flip, you know, for a lot of people, if you're buying to make profit on something, am I buying this for me? Is this an emotional buy? Does the price make sense? If I grade this and resell it, am I going to make profit? It's important to have to know these ahead of time, because when you get into the emotional spot of it, it's just it's gone, and you're just gonna screw up and blow money. So
Agreed fully on that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking about having your mission and goals, like what is your most prized Atari game right now, and one that you hope that you would get someday? What's the one like that brings you most joy?
That I have.
Yeah,
One that you
Atari-
have
you
and one
have
that
right
you
now.
hope to still get if you can.
This is actually one of the first things I bought when I was getting Atari, because I knew these are the rarest, and I know of zero sealed, zero. Well, maybe one, maybe two. The very, very first Atari and the very, very first Sears Telegames, there were 9 of each. The Atari had numbers on the sides. I don't know if I have one nearby,
Like
but
the original launch Atari games, you mean? Had the
yes,
numbers?
correct. So, but they were called gatefolds. So this is one of the original 9 Sears Telegames, and how you could tell them was they were gatefolds because the front
Mm.
folded open. There's a gatefold, and there's 9 of these, and there's 9 similar on the Atari end of it. Those are the very first games. Those I collected. It's not too hard to get a set of these. It takes time. Math is going to be your most expensive on both of them.
Math, just math. That's all it's called.
Math,
Math.
because obviously nobody bought Math. Who the hell wants to buy it? It's kind of like
Yeah, it's
Donkey
like
Kong.
Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah, it's like
Donkey Kong Jr. Math.
That's
no
actually
brainer.
hilarious.
But the math for the Atari gatefold, you're gonna be looking at. You might be able to get one for 200 if you're lucky, but it's probably going to be beat up.
Are you talking
Like
just CIB copy at this point?
just CIB, it's probably going to be more like 300 if it's decent.
Hmm.
The math for Sears Telegames, I've gotten a few for like 150, 200. That was a steal to me. They're crazy rare. But you could, that's kind of a fun tangent of Atari collecting, is the gatefolds, because there's only 9 of each, and they're doable, they're gettable. A lot of them are like 30 to 50 bucks a piece. If you wait and you're patient, like this one, I think I paid 35, 40 bucks for, but it was really good shape. So I was just upgrading an old copy. I have some pictures. If anybody wants to look on my Instagram, you can scroll down and see the 2 different sets, and you'll see all the different games in those sets. I have a picture of all of them together. And then I actually had something that I forgot I wanted to show on here that could be sealed. I paid a lot for it back in the day. But this is actually how the original games came. I don't know if anybody's ever shared this on a podcast ever, or even on a YouTube, but
Fresh new information dropping right here.
yeah, and God, I hate to talk. Well, yes, no. This is how they came. They came in an
Hmm.
outer box that had a little. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. It has a
I
little
see that
thumb.
hinge.
You see the
Yeah.
hinge here.
Yeah.
And so this flapped open here, and you open the side, and then you slide the gatefold game, which is what this is. This is one of the original 9 gatefold games. And they came in these hanger boxes like this. These hanger boxes are just stupid, ridiculous, hard, crazy, rare to find.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Like dumb rare. And to have one that's not opened, like, I mean, that's how this would have been sealed. Is I could tell that this hinge has been opened, but I don't know that the game has ever been removed. So it's kind of like one of those marginal, or where it's like new, maybe not, but just this carrier alone, and these Sears Telegames also supposedly had them. I can't verify that for sure.
Hmm.
An older Atari collector is going to be able to say that, but that's crazy rare. This would be probably my rarest piece by far, just because it has um, the original outside case. I might, my adventures in my safe. I'm sorry, I forgot to pull it
Yeah.
out. Josh gave
No
that to
worries.
me as a birthday gift, and that was so unexpected. That one might, just because it's more personal, because it's a gift, it's from a close friend, and he just gave it to me. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's as I mentioned earlier, Adventure is one of the Atari games that gets up there in value. So like that's one hell of a
Y-
friend.
Yeah, I would probably say that. I would say, you know, the Pac-Man Sears, and then I would say the first print regular Pac-Man. I mean, just because to me that is what Atari is. Pac-Man is that IP for Atari. It, but the adventure probably because Josh gave it to me, so it just adds that extra meaning.
Um,
Um,
yeah, no, I get
yeah.
that fully. And then as someone who's collected for Atari now for years and years and years, what do you still want? What is your, chase? Are you an
Uh,
air raid guy? Is that the ultimate goal? Like, what is that one piece that you could have?
No, no, it's one of those things where it's like if you're a Nintendo collector, you know, if you run across a stadium events, if it's a deal, you're gonna do it. Or if it's
Yeah,
a
but
grab.
you're not seeking it as you're
No, no,
okay.
no, no, no. It's for me, it's all Sears Telegames black boxes. Think I have, so like I said, there's like 58, 59 of them. I'd have to look back on my list. Um, and I have sealed. We're talking sealed. I think I have 17. I mean,
Wow,
it's so crazy.
that's hard.
It
That's
there
hard.
there are games on this list I have never seen. Never. Like, and a lot of them. Not just like one or two, like a lot. But it's fun. It's exciting. Like the expressions on your guys' face when I say that, it's exciting because then when you do find it, you're like, it does exist. And you're just like, oh my God.
It
So
almost gives you a lifelong hunt. Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
weird because I think that level of rarity and chase almost discourages a lot of people as well. When you say I've literally never seen it, and it's like, okay, well, is there
Yeah.
any point of you even searching?
It's if it's not challenging, it's not fun. And when you have another friend or a couple of friends, you know, you have Josh and you have Eric. Eric is so passionate about these, and we share spreadsheets with each other. So I know what he has, he knows what I have. A lot of the games that we have cross each other, so we kind of both have them. It makes it fun when you're collecting with friends. It makes it fun. And I think that's where like Nintendo Age came in. It made you feel like you were collecting with all these other people. It added an element of, you know, fun being with those people and things like that and sharing and it was a more giving community, especially early on. Um,
But the larger it gets, the less personal everything gets, unfortunately.
it's
Maybe
true.
Atari is. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. The more Nintendo Age grew, a lot of the core original guys kind of started fading off. We're just having our own private chat groups because the new guys were just like, "Rah." It was a lot.
Yeah, well, even in my little Discord now, like we have a private group chat. Sorry if you're
Yeah,
not, for anyone who's not in it, it's like, sorry guys, but just as it keeps growing and new people come in, it's easier to just chat with a core group
yep,
about certain things and stuff. It adds a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. You guys have a trust element, and you can say things you
Yeah, you
probably
can say
wouldn't
the actual like
do.
collector stuff when you know someone's not going to snipe you. If you share like, oh, here's something I'm looking for, and another person's not just going to backdoor you on it. Goes a
Yeah,
long
and then
way.
try and sell it to you. Yeah, which is
Is that talking from personal experience right there?
it doesn't matter what you collect. That happens, and it's like that's why you're just careful sometimes. But yeah, but you have to share that information too. I know Henry's mentioned that, to both Josh and I, that's how you get people into it too. If they don't know, that they can't get excited about it either. And you can't bring a lot of that stuff out from the woodwork if they don't know. Um,
So
and
what
it's
would
a,
be
Atari's
your push here to like get people into Atari? Because a lot of people I think just ignore it at this point, especially younger people. Like if you talk to collectors 20 and under, how do they get into Atari? What is the gateway or the
I don't think they start with it, and I don't blame them, and I don't think I'd want to start them with it. I think they should always start with what means the most to them, and once they have their collection and their thing, because that's kind of how I moved. I didn't start with Atari. I started with Nintendo. I went to Halo immediately because these are the things that I really loved, like meant the most to me. When I had those kind of filled up, and then I was branching out. I also grew up with Atari, and so I backtracked. I think it's important that people start with what they love, and then get into the historical aspect of it. Go play some Atari. Look at it, and if you choose to go that way, then do so. That's just
you
where I
buy your
went.
Switch and then if you get into collecting, eventually maybe when you're 5-10 years deep, you start rotating backwards to the
Yep.
historical aspect. Is that
That's that.
kind of the
That's because the more I collected, the more I started appreciating the history of things, not just what I
Yeah.
wanted. Because the history is kind of what I appreciate, what I like about podcasts. I like when people are sharing information because then it's out there for people and it's not just locked away forever. The history to me is important on so many things, and it wasn't until I was older that started becoming a thing for me. Like I said, Atari is kind of where it all started, really. Um,
Interesting perspective that even for myself, as I sit here at 30, maybe I'm just like not old enough to really get, because what, like coins and historical artifacts are always said as these mature hobbies or mature collectibles once
yep,
you start getting into the actual history aspect, but it's usually older people who do that.
yep.
Maybe I'm just like not old enough.
Well, and you got to think, video games is still so young in collecting. Like, if we take a step back and look at it compared to so many other collectibles, it's so young. And in the future, I can see Atari being a much bigger, more important thing. Um, because we're so small still. Even though video game collecting is big, it's not compared to comics or
Oh
things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. No.
Nowhere close. And you can't tell me that there aren't more people who played video games than read comics. Like there's
I've never read a
Or even
comic in my
collect
life.
cards.
yeah, they're like probably together easily. Like guaranteed there's more people who collected video games or not collected video, but played video games or have some kind of relation with them. Um, I just don't see how video games doesn't eclipse everything at some point in the future. Maybe that's a
That's
bold,
yeah,
maybe
that's
that's
a
a bold
big.
statement, but
Yo, Matt is a believer. Yeah, I mean, just to sort of echo what Matt said, I think Atari actually might have a rampway to becoming more popular in the future once game collecting actually does mature. Once
yeah,
people like Matt's seen a lot already. He's collected for over 20 years. So once it's seen everything, you sort of want that chase and that like something hard to get, right? And so like
yeah,
Sears Black Box is what it is for him. It's hard to get. He likes to chase. He likes to share amongst his friends, and it is historical. So when people matured through their collections, I think just having these Atari games as like this is sort of where it all started. Like, granted, that there are consoles before, like the Magnavox Odysseys and stuff, but like no one really considers that that didn't popularize home console gaming. Atari did,
yeah.
so that it is important from a historical
We could
perspective.
see a pop on Magnavox. It wouldn't be super weird if we saw like a niche wave of people who were like, oh, the first ever, like the narrative's there.
Yeah,
And
I think the narrative's there, and I do think that it's definitely an option for people to get into the Atari Collecting. It's new. Like, if you guys have any questions, I'm sure you can ask Matt. He can definitely help you guys along if you get interested in Atari collecting.
Just really
But
quick,
the
Henry, really
yeah
quick. Do
yeah
you have any factory sealed Atari at this point? Do you have graded factory sealed?
no no
nothing.
no.
Oh, we
Like I
can't.
said, the only game I would want is the Mario game.
Oh,
I
gee,
I can
you're giving it this
appreciate it.
big nod here at the end, and
No, no,
I
no.
the
But
truth
okay,
comes
but I
out.
haven't. I haven't gotten everything that I wanted. Like for Matt, he's sort of gotten everything that he's like wanted. Or I'm sure not everything, but he's gotten
yeah,
close, and then he
yeah.
needs that extra push. For me, I'm not there yet. So like what you said, it's you go in through like Switch collecting or whatever you collect now. And then in the future, once you sort of look back and then appreciate the history of video games, maybe it's 20, 30 years down the future when games are almost 100 years old, then you're like, oh, what started it all? And then people start caring again, right? It's sort of the narrative that needs to play out over time, I think.
Okay,
And
okay. So you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, eventually, not now. I
I
have
I
other stuff to
I
get.
know where you can get a Mario. Funny enough.
Oh yeah. No, well, is it a really nice copy? Oh,
Shout out to
oh,
See,
Matt's
for you.
eBay
Yeah,
page.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that
yeah. Matsy Base
that's
page.
that's why I haven't I know you're collecting and yeah,
Yeah.
it probably it wouldn't I don't think it would fit. It does have a little like some kind of little white mark on the top spine,
Uh,
but it's like
gotcha.
I've never seen another one. It has original tape seams or tape physical tape on the upper lid.
Okay.
Early had that. It has the sticker on the back marking over the warranty.
I'm gonna hard sale you, man. You're
Is
gonna
it
have to buy.
wait? Is this Scotch tape? Like what type of tape are we
Yeah, it's
talking
like
about?
they used like a Scotch tape. There's two on the
Really?
there's two on the bottom, two on the top. It's so crazy rare. In fact, I'm sure
Man.
the guy who probably sold it thought it was just somebody taped it closed. So
Yeah.
that's why the price was low when I
I would have
got it.
thought that.
Okay.
And then Josh is like, "Oh, dude," he's like, "That's original factory tape. Get that." I'm like,
Oh man,
"Okay."
you are selling me on it. We can maybe talk a little bit later on it. But
Great,
last question.
crazy
Last
rare.
question. So we like to ask all the collectors that are going to come on. And by the way, you are the first collector that we've interviewed.
The inaugural
Oh.
episode.
Man,
Give yourself a little pat on the back, you know.
I'm
But
honored. Seriously, you guys are
yeah,
fantastic. So this is awesome.
house is on fire, everything's burning down, but you know your dog and your pets and everyone that you care about is safe. But you can only get one game. What is it? Is it the Sears? Is it a Sears box? No, the
No,
Pac-Man.
no, Henry, you know
The
my
point
passion.
five Pac-Man.
Halo. Hey, it's got to be Halo. It's got to be Halo, right?
You know my passion.
Yeah,
We don't need
yeah.
to
Show
talk
show me
about-
that Halo.
That's my
Oh yeah, you got the 9.8. Nice.
and I think
What is the slip sleeve?
my slip is a 7.0. So like I said,
7.0.
Tell people what
7.5
you
is
got there
nuts.
really quick. Just like
What's that?
explain what you're holding.
So this is Halo 3 Pontiac. They were numbered. They were early release like
640.
Halo 3s. And supposedly you I hate saying definitively one way or the other because sometimes the information comes out in the future that negates all the information. So I like to say supposedly or maybe allegedly. Allegedly, you could get this earlier, early, like a day before or whatever the Halo 3 release. But it was a Pontiac promotion. They had 1,000 of them. And they're just crazy, stupid rare. I mean, you can look up the information on this online. There's plenty of forums and whatnot talk about it. That when they pop up, they go for a solid amount of money.
How many years
I
have you owned that one there?
I got mine like not long before. Henry, when did you? I've
I got
had
mine like
this.
2-3 years ago. I got it
Yeah.
raw on eBay.
Yeah, mine was from the same seller as his. I was like,
Oh,
"You have
really?
two?" And so
Interesting.
You guys didn't tell me. Like, why don't I have
So
one?
I got it raw, but I know what's crazy is you can, it's just a slip over the original Halo 3 do not sell before. So what a lot of people do is they get a slip, however, because maybe the game inside's junk, and then they replace it with a, do not sell before Halo 3 inside, which is fine. You could call it monster boxing, whatever. I know this is all original. Like this is the game that came in this slip. Same with Henry's. So that means a little bit to me. That's just personal, but
Essentially, so like, it sells for a big premium over Halo 3, but we're talking 90% of that is the slipcover itself.
yeah, it's really all about the slip. But on top of that, I don't think people realize, I've been collecting Halo for since 2009.
Wow.
And I collected
15 years.
specifically for condition. Like I wanted the best of the best of the best, period. That's what my mission was. And all of my Halo 3s, when I eventually graded them down the road, not one of them hit a 9.8. I actually had to get a 9.8 later on. So to get a 9.8 in a Halo 3 is just stupid. A do not sell before variant. And same with Halo 2. I did not get one single 9.8. And I know this is a Atari episode, so
I was gonna say we might have to hold you back here because like we'll bring you back on because
Yeah.
it sounds like you could talk about Halo for days and days and days too.
Ah.
But on that note,
Greg, you could do
make
the-
sure to
you
check
could
out
do the
Matt. We'll have
outro.
all of his information linked down below. What was that website? One more time. Gamevariations.com.
Yeah, let me pull it up. I just want to be
I'll make sure to
specific.
link it down below. I just wanted to give that a shout one more time as well.
If you type in videogamevariations.com, it'll pop up, and then it's very old school website build. Like this is HTML type build. You
So
just
long
start
as the
click-
information is good, it's an invaluable resource. I'm going to be
Oh,
popping
it's
on there myself. So
Yeah, it's fantastic. I know Eric and I use it a lot. I'm sure Josh does as well, although he probably just remembers it all. But yeah.
Huge thanks for coming on, Matt. That was awesome. Great interview, and hope to have many more collectors in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Anytime I talk video games.
Yeah, if you
Fun.
want to leave Matt a comment down below, by all means, please. He'll well, I'll make him monitor the comments so he can answer you. And leave a like, comment, and we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Peace.